Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Joel Madden, and this is Artist Friendly. On this episode, I'm talking to songwriter, artist, and the lead singer of Incubus, Brandon Boyd. The band is celebrating the anniversary and the re-record of their multi-platinum album, Morning View. We'll get into that and lots of other things. Let's go.
My kind. I don't want no bad times. I don't want to have bad.
I have this theory about 90s alternative rock.
Hit me with it. Yeah.
But in the world of like rock and roll in the 90s, that was born in the 90s, and all those miles that you earned on the road, all those shows you did from zero to stadiums, right? And I think we're now living in a time where plenty of bands are forming every day, and there will always be, I think, like rock music will always be represented in its kind of organic form, and bands will be born. But there's this era of music that will never be again. It's just not possible to recapture that era and that time. Then the next decade of art telling that story is going to be great soundtracks and great stories and great movies. And this was before information was shared the way it is now and so quick. So there was all the aspects of that, whether it was the darker side of it and then the peaks of joy you could feel if you had success at that time, which you guys did. That's what our idea of classic rock, like if you got the chance to see Led Zeppelin, if you got the chance to see these incredible bands, right? To me, it's like this timeless music that you're one of, think about it, even if it was hundreds, you're one of hundreds. And then of those hundreds, how many are still vital and can make music and art?
Or still like each other.
Are still healthy, right?
True.
Stayed healthy. Found a way to live a real life.
That's a big part
and not
of it.
become like a shadow of a person that, like a shell of a person that just kind of limps along through life because they couldn't figure out how to be a real person.
Surviving the experience is a huge part of what you're talking about. I think it's and it's something that doesn't really get talked about in our wider kind of like entertainment culture or our art culture, is that our line of work has a weirdly high kill rate. It kills a lot of people young.
The mortality rate is not good.
It's wild. And so if you kind of spot that at an early enough moment, you have the opportunity to, like we were saying earlier, you and I were talking about the very clear kind of like pitfalls there, or the minefield, whatever you want to call it. If you can spot it, you can learn to navigate it. It's hard, and you're gonna step on some mines here and there. But if you expect it coming, it can keep you humble, and it can also help you survive the experience. Because it does have some incredible things to it, and some of the opportunities that it affords. And the ability to make a living expressing yourself and becoming a multifaceted artist. That was always my dream, was that I would just be able to express myself. I didn't care if we were going to be famous or if we were going to make millions of dollars. I just knew from a very, very young age that I needed to paint and write, whatever that looked like. And so it was actually kind of surprising once we started finding some success in the music world, because I did not grow up necessarily dreaming about being the singer of a band. I thought I was going to be a painter. But as it turns out...
You are a painter, as it turns out, but...
Yeah, but to me, writing songs is painting. They're so similar. They're different in very clear ways, and the results are different. But then a lot of the results are very similar too. It's just painting is a more tangible, touchable version of the process, like the wider process. I think that's why I love it, is because one day I'll have a melody swimming around in my head that is sort of unattached to anything, and maybe it's similar for you, and you'll just walk through your day kind of humming it. You're like, oh, this is a cool melody. Majors and minors, and it's giving me a certain feeling. Is that this song? No. Is it a piece of this song? Maybe. And you just kind of let it sit with you, and it's sort of in the background. And then all of a sudden, a phrase will attach itself to it. that doesn't really make any sense. And then you start to refine it in the back of your head. And you're painting, essentially, is what you're doing. When you're actually physically painting and you're putting a brush to a canvas, it's just a more tangible, immediate version of that process, in my experience, at least.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. And as an Incubus fan, it's awesome to hear. Cause your lyrics, they feel to me, I've always felt like poems to me. They've always felt like poetry. It's always felt like someone was sitting there writing like a little bit of an, sometimes less abstract, sometimes more abstract, but it all felt like metaphorical. It all felt like, but it felt like it started in a book of writing. And like, if you
usually does,
and that's the thing to me is like, God, I would love to like get that book. Like, I'd love to read through all the book and read read some of the lyrics that never did come out, the writings that no one ever got to see, that are like probably brilliant and too hard to shape into a song or whatever. Maybe. But like, there's something there that I think is like really special. And I'll bet you any amount of money that if you release that book one day of old writing, that shit would be dope.
Or people be like, man, this is awful.
They really did pick the good ones.
Right? Maybe they did just write the good ones. No, I actually have been, I started a Substack I think it's about a year ago. You know Substack?
Yeah.
And I wanted to share kind of my longer form writings and disparate poems and song ideas that never quite made it to the cutting room floor. So, and over the last year or so since it's been out, I've shared maybe, 8 or 10 of those like acoustic demos that I record at home that I had at some point had sent to the guys in the band, be like, along with many, many others. And these were the ones that didn't get a response. But there was something in them to me that still struck some kind of emotional chord or intellectual chord.
It's important to you. Like,
and I was like, it's not garbage. Yeah. Maybe it's not like worth developing into a full song, but it's kind of like looking into someone's sketchbook. There are certain sketches in a sketchbook that you feel compelled to turn into a larger, more sort of grandiose piece of art. And then there are some that want to live just there and they're cool like that. Yeah. So that's what my Substack has kind of become. And it's
how do people like go see it? Where do they go?
They just go to Brandon Boyd on Substack. I think my Substack is called A Wink and a Nod. Like,
and
cool. You can, there's like a free tier and then there's just a subscriber tier as well.
Cool.
Where they get the cooler shit.
You brought me this game you did called Two Doors.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How did this happen?
This was, I like we were saying before, I grew up I watched movies because we had a television and we had a VCR, but we didn't have cable. Yep. And we had no like reception. I grew up in like the hills outside of Los Angeles. And so spent a lot of time outside, spent a lot of time drawing, writing. But when we were really bored, we played board games. Yeah. This was a thing of a bygone era.
So did we.
But it has a place in my heart.
Totally.
So one of the first games I remember was memory games.
Yeah, totally.
Where you mix up the things, you turn them over and you flip one over and you try and find its match. So I did this series of paintings called Portals a handful of years ago, and there were a bunch of them. I did them on like 4x4 or 6x6 pieces of paper, and I made duplicates of all of them, and then I found synonyms for doors across just all of them. And there's a bunch of great, beautiful words that are synonyms for doors. And then so it's a memory game. So you're looking for the match, and they're all based on the paintings, and then they have the synonyms for the doors. So you're looking for two doors.
It's awesome, dude.
It looks cool, right? It feels good to hold in your hand.
Even just the packaging and the way it looks is cool.
Yeah, it's fun. And then the other thing is just a regular ass jigsaw puzzle based on a painting I did a few years back.
Based on one of your paintings, which is amazing. This kind of stuff, though, is like my favorite stuff.
I love this stuff too, man.
Like making toys is essentially what we're always doing. We're writing songs, drawing pictures, making toys.
But so many of them are intangible. So I have this thing where I like to still hold something.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just careening into the future of this Nobody touches anything. We don't connect with each other in real time. Everything's digital. It all lives in the cloud, you know?
It's more fun to play with things.
Sometimes you got to put your hands on stuff and like collect
all my
things.
stuff here.
I can see, you get the feeling.
Little trinkets along the way that have little personal stories or meanings, or you just like them.
Yeah, and they remind you of a moment in your life when you went and got them, and
take you back to a happy place.
Isn't it wild how far like skateboard culture has come? Surf culture as well, but skateboard culture was always more kind of like the hoodlums skateboarding.
It's the hoodlums and it's the rabble rousers and the troublemakers, as they're treated that way anyways.
It used to be illegal to skateboard in most places.
Yeah,
and we would get chased by security and cops and stuff, and that was sort of part of the fun in the late 80s.
Yeah.
Like you start getting chased on foot by security, but you had this thing that let you like glide across concrete. So it was like kind of exciting.
Yeah, you could get away.
Try and catch me
half the time, you know? But I like the story because you have this thing that is dismissed for so long.
Mm.
And the world at large that decides what's valuable. And it's usually the most square, not creative, lame people who have decided what is acceptable, what's not, what's valuable, what's not.
Yeah.
And you have this company started with skateboarders in mind that are promoting and nurturing these kids that are hanging out at their shops.
Yeah.
And essentially, I know there's a lot more to the Supreme story, but in the basic idea is we have this idea that everyone agrees is those punk kids over there they're printing their t-shirts.
Yeah.
And over time you have this really cool group of people starting to engage other cool people. So you see the collaborations they did. And over time it becomes this brand that, at the peak, they sell the brand for, I think, like $2 billion. And
wow,
think about that.
That's wild.
So they created this value in the world, all while being told it's not valuable, or, we're going to arrest you if you skate out here on the street. All the things that came with it.
Yeah.
Shifts to, you have people investing, serious people in the world that otherwise wouldn't feel comfortable walking in the store 20 years ago.
Right.
Now
they're lining up to get into the store.
Yeah, and now people are making whole careers on reselling.
Yep.
So now think about the ancillary market around that culture and the brand, a culture that brand kind of sat in the middle of, along with some other brands, right? And I'm sure a lot of streetwear purists and people could come and argue this and that with me, and I would be open to. But the idea that this brand that was a cultural movement, and in the end, what that was born out of to where it got, to me, is the aspirational story of what you can do when everyone looks at you and goes, "Yeah, you're not worth anything." And those little hobbies that you're into, forget about it.
Watch out for those kids, the ones that are into the things that are so disregarded. It was the same thing with surfers too.
Yeah.
And I love looking at skating because I grew up obsessed with surfing and skating. Surfing was kind of first for me.
Right.
I was
because you're like a jump and a skip to Malibu from where you grew up.
Yeah. So there was a beach bus that actually would come and pick us up and drop us off.
That's cool.
It was super, super cool that the town provided that for us. But yeah, skating, surfing, they're these beautiful adaptations, creative adaptations to environments. So with like skating, the people that get the best at it come from these like deeply like urban jungle type environments. And to look at them, it looks like it's just concrete everywhere, billboards, there's no nature around you. And this sort of like pervasive human creativity broke through in young people, where it was like, I'm going to dance on that shit. I'm going to do flips and stuff with this piece of wood all over this environment you created. And you're going to tell me not to for a long time. And then it's going to become a multi-billion-dollar industry at some point. Nobody would have known what was going to happen, obviously, but watching its trajectory, which has been swift, by the way. Like we were saying, like when we were kids, they were chasing us out of parking garages for skating. Yeah. Now there's skate parks everywhere, and it's producing incredible skaters.
And professional athletes.
And professional athletes,
So
yeah.